Julie, on the first day, hopefully, of what will be a very good week here at Sebring for the 2011 U.S. Sport Aviation Expo, there's been an awful lot of buzz about who's doing this and who's selling that and so forth, but there's something that has to happen when you sell the airplane, and that many of the people getting into entry-level airplanes like LSAs, well, they got to learn to fly them. No company has been as closely identified with its training programs over the years as has Cessna. What is the health and state right now of the Skycatcher training program?
Actually, Jim, it's excellent. We've done a number of things to prepare, in particular, our Cessna Pilot Center network for the introduction of the Skycatcher. One of those key things was to introduce the Sport Private Pilot course, which is an online program coupled with an online learning management system and a FITS-based syllabus that would be able to take a person who wanted to get a sport certificate or a private certificate, or they weren't sure which and could make a transition between those. We actually launched that program in September of 2009, focusing on the Skyhawk, because that's what our schools were using at the time, but to also prepare them and kind of get their feet wet with a brand new system before we introduced a brand new airplane.
What are you hearing from the flight schools? What impediments, what issues, what are they learning?
Yeah, I met with a couple of our Cessna Pilot Centers earlier this week in the Tampa area. We've got Atlas Aviation at Peter O. Knight and Bay Air Flying Service, which is at Albert Whitted, and they're both operating Skycatchers and have been doing so for a couple of months. So there's been a transition for their instructors. You know, it's not a 172. It's actually a lot more fun to fly, I can say that. It's a different airplane, so the instructors have made a transition. But what they're seeing is it's drawing in a new kind of customer. It's getting people energized who are maybe on their rental pilot roles, but it's also bringing in folks that they haven't seen before. And they've done a number of promotions to kind of prime the pump, but so far so good. And the killer thing is it's paying for itself. Because this airplane is economical to operate. You know, the acquisition cost is a lot less for a new airplane than, you know, our traditional entry-level aircraft. So that is helpful. You know, the insurance has been good. We've been working with our insurance program to make sure that insurance costs were in line with Cessna products as opposed to being in line with an unproven aircraft. They've really taken a look at it from that standpoint. But it also allows a customer to have a new airplane at about the same price point that they were paying for an old vintage 172.
Welcome to the Aero-News Network, the aviation world's most comprehensive news and information resource. Real-time 24/7 online audio and video programming, where aviation has been getting updated for over a decade. Distributing over 11,000 stories, features, audio, and video programs every year. Only ANN covers aviation and aerospace with this much depth, insight, and expertise. Check us out on the web at aero-news.net.
Now, our first look at your online training actually was very impressive right out of the box, and I know you've had a little help from a few folks who know one or two things about flight training, but there has to be this continual process with a new airplane and a new market. I mean, LSA is new to everybody right now. It's in its infancy. I would assume that with so much of it based and working in the online community, it gives you the opportunity to update on the fly a lot more.
That's a beautiful thing. You know, we sat down with the folks at King Schools, with John and Martha, who obviously have deep history in the training field, about 3 years ago when I first came on board, and we knew we wanted an online program, and we knew we wanted a very modular system as far as architecture so that we could make updates to the program as we learn things. And we gave the Kings a Skycatcher to fly and to shoot video with, and they really enjoyed the heck out of it. But we keep learning things. As you know, things are dynamic, regs get updated, processes get updated. We want to add things that, you know, we've found. One of the linchpins of the program is incorporating risk management in from day one. So as we learn more of that, you know, we can add those things into the program and, you know, make the usual house cleaning items too as needed.
How radical a change is Cessna willing to put forward to make LSA an integral part of the Cessna step-up?
You know, from the beginning, we looked at the ability to bring an aircraft to certification at a much lower price point for us internally. From the get-go, we wanted to focus on the training market because we knew that if people are flying older equipment, I love classic airplanes, but we all know that it's a labor of love often to keep them in the air. And when you have a 40-year-old airplane that you're trying to keep up on a flight line, things break, and things just break more often. And it also gives a perception to a customer who's walking in off the street. Maybe they didn't have a family member in aviation, which sometimes gives us the ability to look through rose-colored glasses at the things that we don't want to see. Our new customer is coming in with none of that. They need to see something that they can feel confident in, that has the latest technology in it, that feels approachable, that feels safe, that gives them that sense of security. And even though you and I know a 152 well cared for is the safest airplane in the world, it may not give that impression to somebody who hasn't been indoctrinated into.
If you own a Cirrus today, or if you are considering the purchase of a new or used aircraft, consider this. Avidyne, in conjunction with the country's leading Cirrus sales and maintenance facilities, has launched the G3R9 program that combines the purchase of a late-model, low-time Cirrus aircraft and the addition of the Avidyne Integra Release 9 avionics suite for much less than you may have thought, and certainly much less than purchasing a brand new aircraft. G3R9, combining the best airframe, best engine, and best avionics for the best value.
With what you're learning now from Skycatcher and with what you hope to do both with this conventional high-wing Cessna line and, of course, with your composite Corvallis series, are there lessons that you're learning now from this new generation of flight training and LSA that are going to translate to the rest of the fleet?
It still kind of remains to be seen. There are a few things that we've incorporated into the LSA because we have the freedom to do so. We're not as constrained by, some of the requirements of certification. One thing that pops into mind is the weight and balance function that's on the G300. That's something that Garmin could pop into the software, and it's a fantastic safety tool because all I have to do, I don't have to get out the POH. I can just dial in, my weight, my fuel load, bags, my person in the other seat, and I see it on a graph, and it's a green dot if it's good, it's a red dot if it's not, and, so anyone can figure that out.
Very cool. Well, we look forward to seeing what happens to Cessna as this program matures. I was talking to Bob a little while ago, with 30 airplanes in the field. We're going to have to get together and sit back and talk when the 1,000th comes off the line. But I'm sure it's going to be a pretty educational process, as it has been apparently. And we look forward to especially hearing from some of our friends within the flight training community and seeing what they learn from the Skycatcher.
I do as well. It's a continual learning process. I learn every day from having more than 260 Cessna pilot centers around the world, most of them in the U.S. I've got a whole bunch of feedback coming to us constantly, and we learn just a ton.